Do you think like
Yes.
exclusive white neighborhood should be a thing?
Exclusive white neighborhoods?
Yeah, so there's just like
Man,
a,
that's a
a
hard one.
town where there are only like white people allowed to live because like it is too disruptive for a person of color to live there. Should that be like
That's
a
a that's
thing?
a that's a rough one, actually.
That's a rough
That's
one.
that's a rough one. So this might be shocking, but my initial reaction is yes, because
That was a wild one. The thing that gets to me is how the people think, ah, yes, I'll put myself through the turmoil of seeing multiple different therapists and doctors before I'm even allowed to apply for a waiting list to get on HRT for society to even debate over my existence, just as an example. Yeah. There are like a few things that I wanted to talk about. Let me do some notes of like the talk as I remember, as like what went down. So it essentially started off with calling trans women she her is privilege, right? Needs to know the person. Needs to know the person. So if I know you, if I have like a relationship with you, then I might know you enough in order to humor you and give you the privilege of calling you by your preferred pronouns. Obviously, preferred pronouns, they're not a thing, right? Unless you have like multiple pronouns you're okay with, and you have like something that you prefer. Sure, you can have like preferred pronouns, but for me, trans women are women. I go by she, her. These are just my pronouns. I'm a woman. You call women she, her. So, right? Like, it just makes sense. It's normal. I don't need to know the person. I don't need to have like an established relationship with them in order to call them she, her, they, them, or whatnot. Also, like the audacity to say that, like, oh, they're going to like just do this for like cis people as well. Oh, if I do not know this random VTuber, this random cis woman is like a woman, I can't. I will like always call them they them. Oh, we call everyone they them. I call everyone they them. And then they don't do that. And they obviously blatantly like call, people that they don't know, like she, her, and they have like no issues calling like a cis woman she, her. The other thing is like obviously like neopronouns, right? Like she and whatnot, that used to be like a neopronoun, that used to be like a new pronoun. I don't see an issue with calling someone she instead of he, right? Like that is like, yeah, it takes some time to get used to, but it's basically like saying like, oh, you don't want to call someone who goes by its pronouns it because it's dehumanizing and doesn't make you comfortable, so you call them they and like, just basically like insult them. I don't understand like the idea there. Like you're uncomfortable with like respecting someone's identity, because you don't believe that they are like valid in their identity. That is like, if you just say that, you're a piece of shit, you're garbage, but at least you're not hiding it. You're not like trying to like sugarcoat it and as like phrase it as like concern, right? As like, oh, I'm so sorry. I cannot refer to you by it. It's just like, it doesn't make me comfortable to not view you as a human, right? Like, it's so dehumanizing to view you in this way. And like, it doesn't make me comfortable that you want me to call you it's because it makes you comfortable. It makes me too, like, there's too much discomfort from my end that I'm experiencing by respecting your pronouns and viewing your identity as valid. It would be nice if instead of debating the philosophy with insane hypotheticals, if she actually went and read accounts from trans people about how they experience the world in all areas of life. That requires the ability to view trans people as like human beings who have like their own experiences, their own thought processes, and not just look at the world through the lens of like an abuser taking charge of the identity and whatnot of trans people. That is like the huge thing, like a fundamental disagreement on the identity of trans people. Like trans women are women. You can phrase it however you want. Like there was women, like everybody, normal people just think when they say women, like an adult human female, they just like think of like someone who is born a woman, a biological woman, a real woman, right? That's like the main aspect. It was also hilarious when she said she's antisocial and doesn't go outside, but then worries about changing rooms. She'll never see him. It is just like hypotheticals. And the discomfort of bigots is more important than the comfort and the freedom of trans people. Because we are the minority. That is literally it. We are such a small minority. They can just like walk all over us. And we, like, in order to not be disruptive to the status quo, to the society, we need to assimilate. We need to like basically do what they are comfortable with. So the disagreement is like trans women are women. Trans, the adjective, doesn't change the noun. We are a type of woman. There are straight women, which is a type of woman. A woman that is straight. A woman that is gay. You know, a woman that is white or whatnot, right? It is a type of woman. The noun doesn't change. What being a woman feels like, what, you know, how you like perceive yourself and so on, like that can change. And it's also like dependent on like the society that you like live in, the culture that you grow up in, what is like expected, like the societal expectations of a woman. The prefix doesn't change the essence of the word. Yeah, exactly. Like a guitar is still a guitar, whether or not it's like electric or acoustic. Acoustic or electric changes the type of guitar, but it's still a guitar. I'll also take a guess. Leaflit also ignored the existence of trans men yesterday. I mean, I wouldn't like necessarily agree on it because like a lot of examples were FTM.
Shut the fuck up, bitch.
They were FTM, and Leaflit does have a trans brother. The thing is, like, I would have brought it up if there was anything more recent on Loki, Leaflit's brother, except for like the 2020s Tumblr comics, which are talking about like a lot of like gender identity and stuff, like a lot of like concepts. The Twitter account is dormant since 2022. I do not know anything that is like going on there. Otherwise, I would have like brought it up. That shit show was hard to listen to. Can't imagine how it felt to engage in that. I'm gonna be real. I did expect it to go this way. It was just like incredibly sad how hateful her views are, how hateful her beliefs are. Like that is, it's heartbreaking to not be seen as like a human being who is able to experience life and to share their experience and like how certain things like feel to them, because no, it's more important that the intent of the abuser is good. Support you. I hated yesterday so much though. I get it. I do not want to become like a debate streamer. I do not want that. I do not want to like platform and give validities to like the views of people like that. I get how much it sucks. I still strongly believe that every now and then it can be beneficial in order to like understand where the fundamental disagreement comes from, where the opposition sits, and how to address it properly. The thing is, like, as a trans person who has been invalidated my entire life, who had to fight really hard in order to get like access to care and so on, to go through all of these things, who constantly gets attacked from people. It sucks so much to talk with someone who has literally no empathy, no compassion for you, and doesn't even view you as like a human being who is able to have like a unique experience of life, who is just being dismissed because it's more important to protect the abusers. There's some clips. Sylvie clipped a bunch of things that I just wanna show, and then I can like talk more about these things. But okay, so We got the pronouns thing. We got the fundamental disagreement on identity. We got the protecting of abusers because of intent. What was the other thing? We had assimilation and basically discomfort of bigots more important than comfort of trans people. Emulating, which would also be like part of like assimilation, right? Like if you go through all of the things like the transmedicalism, basically like you are not a woman until you are indistinguishable from women, but you will never be a woman, a real woman, because you can't get pregnant. We had the like the situation with like the bathroom debate. We had the situation with like the sports debate, which was entirely like bad faith. You know, like, oh, the biological advantages of trans women is still so strong, even after medically transitioning, that they need to be banned from sports. And then you say, okay, but there are specific types of women, you know, tall women and so on, who have an advantage over the average woman. Does that mean you want to ban them? And then, no, this is because, like, gender lines. That was gross. Because it's literally trying to, like, justify excluding a type of woman because of them being born male. Because of them going through male puberty. And then also, like, advocating for, you know, not having, you know, trans girls and so on transition ASAP. But to say they should wait preferably till 21. And yet they want to ban a female boxer because she looks too much like a guy. Or because she's intersex, so she's actually male. And actually that's why it's like unfair and, you know. And then you bring up like intersex women and then it's like anomalies. These are just people who like break the norm, but somehow the existence of intersex people doesn't break the rule that is still being used against trans people. Like, how do you define female? Definition of woman and female, right? So, oh, you have the idea like, oh, biological woman. You have trans women and biological women. You have trans women and real women. You know, like this type of like thinking. Because your idea is like, oh, a woman is an adult human female. A female is someone who has who produces the large gametes, right? And then you like look at it and it's like, well, it's actually like more complex. These definitions, like dictionaries, they are prescriptive. They are descriptive, not prescriptive. They don't teach you how to use the word. They are teaching you how they are used commonly, but that isn't like actually accurate if you look at what is really happening. So the thing is like the main things when it comes to like these things is obviously what characteristic do you use in order to classify someone as female, for example. This has nothing. This is separate from being a woman, right? But like let's start at like female. So the dictionary definition, like the old school definition of like a woman, you would be like, oh, adult human female, right? So in order to like define the social category, the social construct, you know, woman, you use biology. You would like link it. Obviously, gender and sex is not the same thing. But like if you wanna go there, if we want to like start with like definitions and we start with like female, okay, so basically like what characteristic do you use in order to classify someone as female? Okay, so then we got things like we got chromosomes, we got gametes, we got the phenotype. We got, like chromosomes would be like genotype. We got hormones. There was like a fifth one, secondary sex characteristics. Yeah, which could be, which would be developed through hormones. Reproductive organs. We're discussing only biological terms. Yeah, exactly. Huh? I wanna start really slow in order for you to in order to easier explain why this is just like too oversimplified, even if you firmly believe that in order to be a woman, in order to be a real woman, you need to be female. And I'm going to explain to you why, even if you use these criteriums, the fact that intersex people exist is already like breaking these things. So you cannot use this in order to exclude trans women without excluding cis women as well. When you have like the genotype, your chromosomes, you got like XX chromosomes, right? Like, oh, a woman, a biological woman is someone with XX chromosomes. Okay, well, there are women with XY chromosomes. There are women with X0, with XY, you know, with XXXY. That happens. There are males with XX chromosomes as well. So like this might be like the majority, but like if you're using the genotype as like a classification, as like a goal that like trans women need to reach, then you're going to exclude a lot of cis women as well. When it comes to gametes, you got large gametes and small. There are intersex people who produce both. I produce neither. There are intersex people who have like ovaries that produce like testosterone and so on. It is so much more complex. Phenotype. Okay, intersex people, again, disprove it. And also, we do have bottom surgery and so on. I do not have like the primary sex characteristics of someone who is male. They have been adjusted and put in the shape, and they have been repurposed to match the primary sex characteristics of someone who is female. I do not want to go into like trans medicalism in order to be like, oh, okay, then you're like a woman. Because, right, intersex people, they can be born with both. And then they are like, as infants, being forced into cruel gender reassignment surgeries and so on in order to quote unquote fit them into a box and fix them. Right? It is gross. It is a grotesque tactic in order to make people fit into certain boxes. Your phenotype also doesn't change your gender identity. It doesn't affect your gender identity. Like, it doesn't determine how you feel about yourself. There can be a mismatch between your primary sex characteristics and who you are, like, inside. When it comes to secondary sex characteristics, when it comes to like the phenotype, secondary sex characteristics, your hormones impact them. And you know, you have T, you can have women with high T and low E. That happens, right? That exists. You can also use medical treatment in order to bring that in line again and like suppress your T and elevate your E levels. And then you're going to get changes to your body that you would expect of someone who is assigned female at birth and goes through like a dominant estrogen puberty, right? That is what you get. That is like how you end up there. Obviously, your reproductive organs, like, they don't determine, you know, like, there are women who can't get pregnant. That's just like how it goes. That doesn't take away from them being female. You can be born without a uterus. That is fine. Now you go into like the territory. Well, okay, so but like trans women, they are born male. And then they are adjusting and they are changing and whatnot through medical intervention. This is why they are not a woman. Well, it's because they were born male. You were born with small gametes and XY chromosomes and a male productive system. You just destroyed that. You destroyed a healthy male body in order to match your perversion or shit like that, right? That is kind of like what they are saying. This is what they are like leading up to. Which is why certain things get like so difficult, because they are dismissing all of these things, right? There is, you know, the capability of someone being pregnant who has XY chromosomes and so on, like all of these things. And then they're always like looking for the, well, you know, like females with DID are still female. You're just a male. Which makes this conversation so incredibly frustrating and so difficult because you cannot, like, there's nothing I can say which is going to be good enough for them to, like, no longer hyperfixate on, like, oh, what is a female? You have, like, a fundamental, like, disagreement because of, like, this misunderstanding and, like, the fixation on, like, oh, a woman is an adult human female. So now you go into, like, the bigger conversation about, like, oh, what is a woman? Like, it's a social construct, right? Social construct, which is like a category of gender, right? Category of gender. So you have like all of these things, and then you use like the definition of like, oh, a woman is someone, or like a woman is like a category of gender, which is a social construct, and it is typically attributed to those of the female sex. So you still use this part here, but it is just like the social role, like the gender expression, the gender identity of someone that is like typically attributed to someone who is female. And then you mention it, and then you go back onto like the point, you loop circular back to the, oh, like, what about biology? What about like the biological sex? Oh, a woman is someone, like anyone who like identifies as a woman is a woman now. And it's like, yeah, if your gender identity is that of a woman, then you're a woman. But it's like, it makes certain things like so difficult to talk about because of like this baseline disagreement. And then when you have like something like gender, you talk about like, you know, gender identity, gender expression, and social gender. But when it comes to your gender identity, that is like your sense of self. It is an innate feeling of like perceiving who you are, how you like feel inside of your body and so on. Gender expression is like how you express yourself. Obviously, there's like the social expectation, right? Like certain things that like, oh, this is expected of women, this is expected of men, right? You can be like on the masculine or on the feminine end, right? You can be masc and you can be femme. And this is like also like heavily dependent on like the culture that you live in and like the social gender, right? Like it all kind of like influences each other, right? Like being tall, for example, that is like being seen as something more masculine. Being short is seen as more feminine. But then you also have like the things of like, oh, you wear like clothing that is like typically associated with women, right? Like skirts and so on. Obviously, a fabric doesn't have like a gender, but like there are cultures where men wear skirts and there are cultures where only women are supposed to wear skirts and so on. And then you have like your expression there. If you're a woman and you wear trousers and you have like short hair, you don't want to like wear makeup and so on. Like you're breaking the stereotypical thing that is like associated with like what women have to look like, with like the gender expectation, with beauty expectations, societal norms, and so on. Like you're breaking that if you're like a woman with short hair. You're also like kind of breaking that if you're a man with long hair. There's like a lot of misgendering happening because of that. But like your gender identity, this is like mainly what we talk about when it comes to like the trans topic. Your gender identity is that of a woman. A woman is something that is like typically associated with like the female sex. And it doesn't matter if you are born male or female. Your gender identity can have a mismatch with your sex. I've been called a woman so many times for being a guy with long hair and painted nails. Yeah. The thing is, like, a lot of times it also comes with the, being called a woman is, like, degrading. So you gotta be like a little bit careful. Like obviously sometimes, you know, people get misgendered and whatnot, like that happens. But like a lot of the thing of like invalidating a woman's femininity is seen as like degrading. Invalidating a man's masculinity is seen as degrading. Calling a man a girl is seen as like degrading. That's kind of like where a lot of that comes from as well. Like it's very easy for like transphobic people to like hijack the conversation. That is like something that is like incredibly frustrating. It is so frustrating because like if you are, okay, so you're born male, you have XY chromosomes, you have like a male reproductive system and so on, and then you take female hormones and then you're just like a disfigured male, right? Like it's gross how they like talk about us. Like it is so obvious that they don't view us as humans who deserve to have like any form of like dignity. It's just so difficult to like reach these people this way. Mrs. Ben, and I somehow don't feel different if I ever wear a dress. How insecure do I have to be threatened by such small things? Because there are so many people who define their self-worth or like reduce their self-worth to like how like masculine presenting or feminine presenting they are. They think in order to be like a real man, like they can only ever live in like this one like masculine range. They cannot allow themselves to break free from that. Because if they're being seen like slightly feminine and they're being called gay, then they're losing their social standing. Anyways, so obviously, this is why we are running in circles. Like every single time. This is why it's so difficult to like talk with like, you know, conservatives, with like transphobic people. You're just constantly going on and on about like this thing. Right? And when you say, okay, trans women are biological women, we are still biological, right? Like the opposite of trans is not biological. The opposite of trans is not normal or real or whatnot, right? Like trans people exist and we're just like a type of woman. We are a woman who happen to be born male. That doesn't change our gender identity and it doesn't change like who we are. Our sense of self. And the thing is like, obviously transphobic people are going to look at that and they think, oh, so we have to like accommodate for you. You have your brain. This is you, and your brain is you know, is male, because you know, pink, obviously male color, and your genitalia is you know, your phenotype and whatnot is blue, so you know you're female. You thought I would say it the other way, right? You thought I would say it the other way. Anyway, so your body is like one gender, your brain is another. People will judge you based on your phenotype. They will label you based on like what they can see, what they can like actually tangibly grasp, because like that is what they're taught is like not just like who you are, but who they are, and like the entire like idea of like society is like reduced to like what they can observe, and this is like the part. And when you're like, no, you're like, this is different, right? They're just going to like ignore this. This is why it's like so incredibly difficult to explain to like these people that like emotional abuse is just as bad as physical abuse. The torment that happens like in your brain, you know, being depressed and whatnot because of like the consequences, like what people are saying. People are like, well, we are just basing it in reality and we're calling you what you are based on what you were born as. And they do not want to like realize how much emotional damage it does to you, because they are not actively going out there and then like harming you like physically. Even though they would still justify and downplay that, right? There are enough victims who have to like endure all of the harm. It's basically like oh, we're just going to try to kill yourself and we're going to be proud that you're going to be happy. And then you can't blame us because you did it to yourself, because nobody harmed you. You could have just like ignored us. That is like the justification of abuse, because it's like a mental, it's like in your brain, it's in your head. It is not something that like can be tangibly seen, But, you know, like I said, because this is like an abusive mentality, they would like justify it anyway if someone would go out there and actually like harm you. What we are saying is like, listen to who we are inside. Listen to our experiences, how we experience our gender identity and whatnot, and judge us based on that. Instead of like reducing us to like the you know, the gametes and whatnot, the reproductive organs, the ability to get pregnant and whatnot. But then they're saying, okay, so if you're someone who has one type of genitalia and you go into a space where there are a lot of people who you know, do not have this mismatch. Women's spaces aren't women's spaces because, like, you know, social construct and whatnot. No. They are vagina-only spaces. Vagina-only spaces. That's what they are. So you go in there and you have this oh, oops, wait. I need to do it differently. So they do not have this mismatch. So yeah, your brain, your gender identity aligns with their gender identity. But because you're, like, what they can perceive, what they can see, doesn't match theirs, this means, like, you are making them uncomfortable. You are disruptive. You gotta, like, fit into, like, a space where people have, like, the same characteristics as you. And then you go into like the bathroom debate, the locker room debate that like Leaflit was like so insistent on, that you're like, oh, like if you're a trans woman and you go and decide you go into like the women's locker room and like you undress and then, you know, someone has to see like a penis and you're like waving it around and like doing and you're making someone uncomfortable, like should they not be able to like say something? Then you go into like this entire like segment and it's just like, why should trans people be forced to like adjust, to go through bottom surgery, a risky surgery that is like not, you know, really affordable. A lot of people do not have like dysphoria when it comes to like their genitalia. Why do they have to be forced to undergo this instead of you judging someone based on their like gender identity, their sense of self, who they are inside? Right? This is why I try to like talk about like the soul having like a gender being like put in there. Why do you judge my body, the astronaut suit that like my soul got put in, when you should just like judge my soul? And you know, by judging, I'm just like how your perception of me is like being like adjusted, right? Like when it comes to the pronouns that you use, viewing me as a woman and so on, right? That's what I mean. Can't imagine how scary bottom surgery would feel like. When I was strapped to the table, I was getting really nervous. But hypothetically, say I did SAU, that would be uncomfortable, right? Yeah. Well, just meat mech suits in the end. The soul is the pilot. Exactly. But it's so incredibly difficult to like explain this to some person who is just exclusively shaping their entire worldview off of your genitalia and not your gender identity. So there were like a lot of instances that lead to this, that go on that. Which like to me is incredibly like bad faith. It is not even like trying to like understand the points that I'm trying to make. That is like fundamentally like you fundamentally have to like agree and understand the point, or like if you understand the point, you're going to like agree, right? But you have to like fundamentally understand the reasoning of it. And you cannot like hyperfixate on like your own like bigoted worldview that has been like indoctrinated in you. But it's so much harder to get people to, you know, the left, to get someone to be progressive, to break someone free from the matrix, than to just like affirm their like what they already believe and just like push them deeper down into like a brainwashing, like echo chamber rabbit hole type of thing, right? It's hard to find common ground with people that constantly move the goalposts, yeah. But like the main issue is literally because it always leads down to like this, into like the primary sex characteristics. That is kind of like where it always like leads to. And this was just like, you know, obviously like the first hour, the first 30 minutes, I already like realized that this is going to be like the fundamental like core misunderstanding that Leaflit has. All of this is like literally the reason for like fundamentally misunderstanding the bathroom debate, misunderstanding when it comes to like pronouns. Like, it's not a courtesy. We do not have to earn the right to be called she, her, right? We do not have to be like in good graces with like transphobic people in order to be respected in our like human dignity and be referred to as she, her. Right? Obviously, people are always going to weaponize misgendering. And then they're going to like downplay it and like justify it with like, oh, it's just biological reality. They justify abuse. And that was like the other core mentality issue that I have with Leaflit, is always like the protection of abusers and always like empathizing with the abuser and what they are thinking, and and downplaying what happens to the victim, how the victim feels. Oh, it's just because the mom cares for her child so much. It's just because they love you so much. I love and respect trans people. I just really need them to be very sure of being trans. I just can't imagine. It's like the victim, like savior complex. It's such a weird thing that like especially conservative, like especially Christians have, is that like they think their path is like the righteous one. It is the fundamentally like correct one because like their deity, like their authoritarian like deity is like telling them how good they are, like a soldier, and they need to like save others. They need to like fix them. And you can only fix a trans person by telling them that it's okay to be a man. A trans woman should just embrace being a man. It would just make it so much easier. And then they use like other justifications of like, oh yeah, it's so difficult to be a trans woman in society. Wouldn't it be just easier if you weren't trans? And it's like, yeah, but I am trans. And me having to repress is not going to make me happier. It's going to make me more miserable. Just embrace who you are. Yeah, what do you think I'm doing? Exactly. Exactly. It's like the inability to understand that trans people are happier after transitioning. A shitty environment is still going to make you miserable. Constantly being invalidated, constantly having to like fight for your rights, constantly having like a target on your back. That is going to take a toll on your mental health. But like if you start repressing and you go numb and you start disassociating and whatnot, you're not living a life. It is just more comfortable for the bigots around you. Oh, the abuse is going to stop if you just do what I tell you to. I wouldn't even have to like abuse you. I wouldn't have to like nag you on the entire time. If you would just understand that I have your best interest in mind and you should just do what I tell you to do. If you would just concede that trans women are actually men and they should like live their life as a man, then all the abuse would stop. Nobody would have an issue with you, Nyara, if you wouldn't teach people that it's okay to be trans. The abuse would stop. Oh, you're telling that children can be trans? Like, all the abuse would stop if you just start conceding to the idea that being trans is like a fetish. And you need therapy in order to like fix it and convert you. But it's not conversion therapy. It's like the other part, like talking about like conversion therapy and like phrasing it as like, oh, it's just like someone who has like their best interests in mind. Like if you're trans, if you're trans, you should go to like a therapist and like work with them, but you should also go to someone who is trying to like who is going to talk you out of being trans. The thing is like, okay, listen. The thing is basically like you have to fight a war. Being trans is so unreasonable, so delusional, that you need to constantly endure the social pressure, right? It's like so unpleasant for someone to have like a trans kid and like actually be supportive of them and want to like ease their gender dysphoria. You gotta prove that you even have gender dysphoria, right? You gotta prove that you have this discomfort. So you gotta get like the medical practice. So you gotta talk to like doctors. Then you also have to go to therapy, because like you have to go to therapy because like what if actually the root cause for your gender dysphoria is something else? Oh, then you need to talk to like another therapist. You gotta go to another therapist Because like, what if that one therapist was too pro-trans? What like, you should go to a therapist that is like also anti-trans in order to get like the other opinion, the other section. Oh, okay, but now you still have to go through puberty. Oh, this makes you more dysphoric? Well, okay, at least you're going through the puberty, because like, what if you're desistant? So, okay, now you're going to talk to like other doctors, and then now maybe, okay, you can start transitioning, but then you still have to realize that because you're born male, and you went through male puberty, like you will never be like a woman. You're going to like have you're going to have issues. You're going to have issues with your gender, because your gender doesn't like, because who you are doesn't match like gender expectations and beauty norms and whatnot. So now you have to like take you know, you have to go to like get surgeries, right? Your phenotype doesn't match it. Maybe you need like vocal surgery. Maybe you need like facial feminization surgery. You gotta fix your hairline because everything was like ruined through May puberty. So now, okay, now you've been through surgery. Obviously, you can't go into like women's sports because you still have like 9%. You run faster, 9% faster. So actually, obviously, you still have too much of like an advantage. If you're FTM, you in general can't do like men's sports because testosterone's like banned. So you can't compete anyway. Okay, so now you're banned from women's sports. You can't do that. This is not a path for you because you went through male puberty. But like, at least you proved hard enough. You proved that you're trans. So maybe we're going to be able to give you the pleasure of like calling you she, her, or like he, him. So now you earned the right of being able to call you trans. You fought hard enough. The battle was so hard enough that you finally proved that, yeah, you're actually trans. We need this gatekeeping because, like, what if anyone calls themselves trans? Oh, you're saying you don't need, like, gender dysphoria to be trans? Oh, you don't need doctors in order to, like, you know, start transitioning and whatnot? Oh, are you saying you don't even need therapy? Which is, like, you know, I still recommend therapy. Sure, like, you know. Wait, where did I say therapy? Therapy. There you go. Oh, okay. So, but like the debate is like they want to force trans people through puberty because on the chance that they're actually desisting. On the off chance that they're actually desisting. What we want is like, okay, so you take puberty blockers, which is a compromise, right? I know a lot of trans people who would have preferred just going on HRT instead of like having to go through their May puberty. But there are also a lot of like trans people who are saying that like, if you're gender dysphoric, if you know your sense of self, I knew my gender identity when I was younger. Like, I don't actually like need puberty blockers. And also like HRT, going on HRT is like a guided process. Going through your quote unquote natural puberty is not a guided process. You're not going to like have like constant like supervision of if like these changes are actually like good for you. You know that they're bad for you, and you see your body change in ways that feel so foreign for you, so dystopian, so like horrifying, that it like causes you more distress and makes you numb. And you have to endure this. You know that there are irreversible changes. Yeah, going through second puberty is going to help, but a lot of things can only be changed if you go through surgery, right? Like if you're AFAB, if you're a trans man, and you're forced through like female puberty, and then you need to like get like a double mastectomy because your boobs were growing too big. This could have been like preventable if you went on like, you know, puberty blockers. You work with experts. You have like therapy. You have like pediatricians and whatnot. Also like a lot. Like the biggest aspect when it comes to like being trans, like especially, you know, as a kid and whatnot, is like social transitioning, right? Like this is the medical process. This is the medical process, which is like already incredible rare. But, you know, trans people should be allowed, especially trans kids should be allowed to explore their gender identity, figure out who they are, figure out their gender expression, like in general, and have like a supportive environment. If you have a trans, daughter who is starting to like question their gender identity and wants to be referred to he, him, and wants to go by like a different name, why not do it? Obviously, you're not going to say, oh, we're going to like cut your boobs off because you're 8. You're 8 years old, so we're going to cut your boobs off. Like when you go to school, right? And you're a trans boy, be referred to with like a masculine name. You go into the boys' bathroom. You do these things. You like fit in, and you're like included. You're part of like a boy. Like that is like the main aspect. It is not even just like the medical thing. It is just the medical thing is like the most like talked about. Because transphobes always make it about like, oh, this is just like experimentation. Oh, the trans people like, oh, if I had a son who says that, oh, he thinks that he's a girl, you would go there and like cut their genitalia off. Completely bad faith, delusional, disingenuous bullshit, but it's like hijacking the conversation. The social aspect, the social one is like the main one. That is what people should focus on. Using different pronouns. Letting them access into like the spaces that like fit their gender identity. Obviously, puberty blockers help. They give you time. You can work with experts. You're not being rushed into like irreversible changes. And then after like 1 year, 2 years and whatnot, if HRT is the right path, you go there. If not, you just unpause puberty. There's no irreversible harm being done because of the puberty blockers. It just gives you time. And then you go on HRT and you go down this path, and it's still a guided process. You're still talking with doctors. And like at any moment, when you like figure out, oh, maybe that's not the right path for you, you can just like stop HRT and go over to the no HRT. This is something that I talked about like multiple times. So you gotta prove it, and then, you gotta like inflict as much suffering as possible. Invalidate them the entire time. Tell them about like all the risk and how difficult it is to be trans in this society. Shame them for being trans. Tell them that they are never going to be seen as like a real boy or a real girl. They're never going to be able to like access all of these spaces. It's always going to like be weird for them. Society is making it so difficult. Like LGBT Alliance being like, oh, well, okay, so actually, now that the Supreme Court in the UK determined that only real women are, only biological women are real women, this means, like, the point of, like, puberty blockers and like, transitioning is it just doesn't exist anymore. So actually, you shouldn't offer puberty blockers anymore because, like, they are never going to be able to go into the spaces that match their gender identity anyway. So, actually, they're no longer trans. I want HRT, but 30 is too young for me to know what I want, right? You gotta wait till your prefrontal cortex is fully developed, which actually never stops developing. You know what's also insane? Then you went through the process. You went through male puberty. You know how harmful it is. Then you go to doctors. You go to therapists. You try to like figure it out and whatnot. And then it's like, okay, so, I mean, you're 30 now. You lived all of these years as a man. And now suddenly you want to live as a woman. Can't you just like endure it a little longer? Especially if you're already like, if you have like a family, if you're married with someone who is like, well, like, I know you as a man, and like I married a man, and like, why would you want to like change that? Like I like, can't you just like endure it for me? Can you not like cope with your suffering and your depression, your disassociation and whatnot? Just a little bit longer, just for me. How do you think I would feel if you come out as trans? How do you think I feel if you start transitioning? Right? Like the victim complex of like cis people, like parents do it. Like if you have like a partner, if you have like a spouse or whatnot, they do it. Relationships in general. Like, have you not considered how I would feel? Who cares about your feelings? I'm the one who is suffering. Well, but it's just from a point of love, so actually it's fine. So anyway, this pathway, it's abusive. And if your intent is just like, oh, it's just so difficult. It's so difficult to be trans in society. Change society. Stop being part of the problem. Change society. Be the change you want to see in the world instead of like downplaying, justifying abuse and like sugarcoating it and like phrasing it as like, oh, it's just from a point of love. I just love you too much. I just love you too much. I can't see you suffer like this. So I have to push you in a direction where you're repressing and like you start hiding. Why can't we just love and accept people? Oh, why can you not accept my point of view though? Point of love, your love is a literal poison to me. Either you kill me or yeah. I've been there. Like I had suicidal thoughts when I was like 14 and whatnot. And then I talk about this. I share my experience. I share like how certain things make me feel. And then it's like, yeah, I was actually like emotionally manipulative and like trauma dumping. Oh, this is actually like really disingenuous. Like, you know, you're just arguing from like a point of like emotions. You're not listening to Leaflit's logic. Anyway, so I want to like show a few clips that like Sylvie actually saved. There are a lot of things, there are a lot of clips that I have not, like there are a lot of moments, clippable moments that have not been clipped. But I think that like I'm not entirely sure if I want to go back and like look for them, or if I'm just going to like, you know, this is just like a recap of like all the things that went down. And if you're interested, you know, you can always like watch the full VOD and you're going to find moments like that. Sylvie was so dumbfounded by everything Leaf was saying for as long as I saw the debate. Sylvie was reacting to it, so I'm like kind of curious. A lot of like the takes that like Sylvie is going to have, especially when it comes to like the sports debate, because he actually knows about like sports, you know. And I think it would be like interesting for me to like talk with him about it, despite, you know, him being like cis. Let me play some of these clips.
Like a bad, you know, like a inherently bad thing. It's just that since we exist in a society, you know, you would have to harmonize with said society, and
So
it would make it easier.
So should the norm basically control how others need to like live like?
It's like I said before, people who are weird have to do their best to live within the society, and society has a obligation or a moral obligation to allow them to have their liberty. Not moral, sorry, just a societal obligation. For the sake of harmony, a societal obligation, not moral. Sorry, I missed.
I mean, I think calling like left-handed people weird, or like calling autistic people weird, or gay people weird and whatnot is like pretty it's kind of gross.
Why? I'm weird. Like,
so this is like the assimilation part that I was like talking about. Like, oh, trans people need to do their best in order to not disrupt the status quo, not you know, make other people uncomfortable. So a lot of like the debate was like, oh, what if like a trans person goes into like a women's locker room and makes someone uncomfortable? Should they not be allowed to voice their discomfort? And it's like, why does their discomfort mean more than the comfort of trans people? And why do you assume that everybody's like uncomfortable with like a trans person? And then always like, oh yeah, but like, you know, you get naked and like show your dick. Like, I don't know many trans people who even like go into like public restrooms. I have not gone swimming in a really long time, especially before bottom surgery, because of like severe dysphoria, and I was like incredibly uncomfortable with it. Who gets naked in the bathroom? The argument was basically like, oh, you go like swimming, you go into like a, like there's like a pool or whatnot, and people are just like showing their genitalia, etc. We have like small little stalls where you go into. This also assumes that every part of current society is correct and fixed, unchangeable. Exactly. That's like the main part. It's like just upholding the status quo and moving into a more like gross direction. Because like, what if there's like a butch, like masked woman who goes into like a restroom and they are disrupting the status quo because they do not match like the beauty expectation, like the societal, like the gender norms and whatnot that women need to fulfill. Should they be kicked out because they're too disruptive? Because we see that happening. We see articles like that all of the time. What if a Hispanic woman walks into a women's locker room and people get offended? That is something that I brought up many times. There's like a line, right? It's like always like the justification. It's like, oh, because like trans people, they're like weird, they're different, they're other. They have like male genitalia, they have like a penis. You wouldn't expect a penis in women's restrooms or women's locker rooms. That is why you can't have like trans women there. So like if a trans woman doesn't reveal her penis, she should be like allowed to be in there, no?
Like, let's say for instance, like, let's say I love hentai. Like, say I'm just really into hentai. Like, damn. And I got one of those Ahegao shirts, right? And I love it. It's so good. If I wear it like at home, it doesn't really matter. But if I wear it like at a park where there's kids, now I'm kind of infringing on society. You see what I mean? But I'm not saying you should make Ahegao shirts illegal.
My facial. Do you equate being gay to being like some perversion?
No, I'm using an example of a thing that's outside of the average normal society. Yes, I think that being trans, being gay are there factors that aren't shared by the majority of society.
So there we go back again to the, oh, because trans people are other, trans people are different, gay people are different. That's why they shouldn't be allowed to go into like a public park where like children can perceive them, apparently. Anything outside of normal society should be kept in private. Exactly.
They're factors that aren't shared by the majority of society.
Do you think like exclusive white neighborhood should be a thing?
Exclusive white neighborhoods?
Yeah, so there's just like
Man,
a town where there are only like white people allowed to live because like it is too disruptive for a person of color to live there. Do you think that's like, you know, they should be like able to like have like, should that be like a thing?
That's a rough one, actually.
That's a rough one.
That's a rough one.
That's a rough one.
So this might be shocking, but my initial reaction is yes, because
yes, because of freedom.
Freedom of association.
What does that mean?
But I'd have to think about it.
I think I went to bed before this. Yeah, that was a wild one. Sure, if
like
Germany would go ahead and they are going to be like, well, Jewish people are too disruptive, so all of them need to like be sent away. That is like something that you would like support because the majority of people in Germany aren't Jewish, so they should be able to like decide that.
No, I don't think so, because that would involve taking their property rights away.
What if?
Because you would have to steal. So if Jews lived in Germany, you would have to steal their property rights and steal their property in order to kick them out.
So do you think that like a sense of like identity is less valid? Sure, if it's less valid than materialistic things. I think that is what I said. Oh, you shouldn't be kicked out because like you own the house. Yeah, they just, you know, 1930s Germany, they just like said no. Jewish people can't own property. Actually, it doesn't belong to them. And then they kicked them out. She brought West Bank talking points to Nazi Germany. Yeah. We need to segregate but not take property. Where's logic? Yeah, exactly. Huh? You can't move to a white neighborhood as a person of color because it's too disruptive. But they can't take it away when you're already living there.
Maybe they're bi and then maybe like...
Just hypothetically, just assume the kid is like 100% gay.
Yeah, see, but the thing is the parent wouldn't know that, right? So the parent might be thinking that there might be a chance that they're not, and then that's what I mean.
Why does it matter?
Intent, right?
Why does it matter if the child is gay or bi? Like, would it be would it be
intense.
abusive for me to like phrase it as like I'm coming from a point of love? I just really care about my child. I want my child to not go through the struggles of having to deal with homophobia.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly right.
That is wild. That
Why
is
is that wild?
absolutely wild to me. That you do not think that's like abusive.
Why is it wild?
Because you're
How's it
basically
abusive,
like
though?
you're basically sugarcoating abuse. You're basically like justifying
how is it abuse?
it.
Can you
Okay,
explain how it's abuse?
because the child is not straight, and
Maybe.
yeah, so you know you have like a kid who really resonates with like seeing gay couples, and it's like, you know, they might be confused, right? Because they're constantly surrounded by like straight couples, right? Their parents are straight and whatnot, and then like on the movie they see like a boy kiss another boy, or you know, a woman kiss another woman, and then they're like, huh, this exists. I feel seen, like it resonates with me. And then they're like confused, and they, you know, talk to their parents, and they're like, oh, I just can't have my child to be gay. It's just, they're going to, like, it's going to be so difficult for them. Like they're not going to have like a family. They're not going to be able to like reproduce, and they're not going to, you know, it's going to be so difficult for them to like find a job, because like, what if they're like acting gay, and someone is like not okay with that, and like I don't want, like, they're going to be picked on at school. I need to send them to therapy where someone is going to talk them out of it. It's abusive. The conversion therapy endorsement is wild. Yeah, it is abusive because like you're contributing to the problem. You're not supporting your child. You're not loving your child unconditionally. You're not actually having your kid's best interest in mind if you're like trying to get them to repress and whatnot. I don't want my child to go through the struggles of being gay, so I really wish they would like find reason and become normal, because it's so difficult. Would that be like abuse to you, or would that be loving?
No, because they might be bi, right? I mean, how do you know, right? Maybe they're bi, and then maybe like
just hypothetically, just
know,
assume the kid is like 100% gay.
Yeah, see, but the thing is the parent wouldn't know that, right? So the parent might be thinking that there might be a chance that they're not, and then that's what I mean.
Why does it matter?
Right?
Why does it matter if the child is gay or bi? With the same clip. Like, would it be abusive for me to like phrase it as like I'm coming from a point of love? I just really care about my child. I want my child to not go through the struggles of having to deal with homo. That's the same clip, I think. No?
Maybe they're bi, and then maybe like
just hypothetically, just assume the kid. Oh, that was like before that. Okay. Straight up conversion therapy. Now VGen, really. And the other one is just like, you know, being clear cut.
One is in the best interest of the kid.
Why is it in the best? Is it in the best interest of the kid, or is it in the best interest of the mom who really wants their kid to be straighter?
It could be both. What I mean is I don't really think that it necessarily comes from a place of malice to be like, well, you know, let's make sure that that's actually what you want. Let's make sure. Let's make sure, and maybe like we'll go to this place and they'll talk to you about not being gay, and we'll see how that works. And then
straight up conversion therapy. That is conversion therapy.
Well, let's say it's therapy, just regular therapy.
Regular therapy. That is conversion therapy, though.
Okay, let me back up.
Let's go to therapy where they're going to tell you that maybe you're not gay. Let's prove that you're actually gay. Let's figure it out.
Let me back up. It's therapy. They say they go to therapy, and the therapy is like, let's find out who you are, and let's make sure that that's... How's it? Okay, how would you define conversion therapy?
It is basically going to a place where they're going to like tell you that no, actually, like, where the basis of it is basically that like every child is normal. Every child is straight, every child is cis, and then something in their life happened that like it made them this way, right? Like they saw a gay couple in like a Disney movie, and then they're like confused and they think that they have to be gay in order to like emulate it. Going into like a place like that and having them tell you like the entire fucking time that like, no, you just really love. You're just like really confused. You love the opposite gender. You have the urge to procreate. Don't you want to do that? And there are a lot of like means, abusive means that they're using for that. Berating, saying like, oh, what if you're not gay? Why does a kid in general have to go to therapy if they're gay? I get when it comes to like, you know, being trans and like wanting to start medically transitioning and wanting to make sure, especially when it comes to a kid, you know, like, oh, kids are impressionable. But like, why does a gay kid even have to go to therapy in order to figure out if they're straight or gay? Why can't you let like a kid explore? Why do you have to like really make sure that the kid is actually straight? Or, like that the kid is actually gay? Okay, what if I come along and I'm going to say that like, oh, there's like someone suffering in the hospital. I should just, you know, they're old. They don't really have like that much long to live anyway. I should just like go in there because I believe it will make them happier if I'm going to like you know, end their lives.
Well, first off,
would that be like, you know, support, or would that be like?
Well, I wouldn't agree. Well, I wouldn't agree with it, but it wouldn't be necessarily. Would it be necessarily malicious? I mean, nah. I wouldn't think it would be malicious necessarily. I think it would be bad, but I don't think it would be malicious. If like you actually cared for, is that like your family member, right? Or are you just talking about a random person?
Does it matter if it's family or random? If I strongly believe, according to my God is telling me that this one random person on the street would be so much happier and better off if they were dead. Would that be like okay? If you know, would that be
the intent would be the intent wouldn't be malicious, but it would still be deranged. Sure. Anything else?
Yep. That was a crazy one.
What is the criteria for which a person can have a say in it? In a thing that they aren't. Because I don't buy that at all. I don't buy that you don't have a say because you're not trans. Or you don't have a say because you're not this and that. I don't agree with that.
Do you think that like your idea of like being trans, or like what you know about like being trans, is more important than like my lived experience as like a trans person?
It might be. It depends. It depends on how much I've been exposed to it, how many people I've dealt with that. I mean, like for instance, like you could be in a position where your personal experience is narrow and it's just your own perspective, whereas I've seen the effects of it happening to other people. I'm not saying that's what happened to me, although it is kind of the case. But perhaps I have a perspective on it because of people I've talked to that you wouldn't.
Been exposed to, dealt with. She has a trans brother who is also gay. It's still not her life though. It is still not her life. It is still not more important than my lived experience because it's not my life. Anyway, these were the clips that Sylvie has. There are a lot of clips. But like hopefully like I'm able to like explain a little bit better of like what went down. There are like a few misconceptions and so on. There are a lot of things that I wasn't doing properly because like there's one study that, for example, I used when it comes to like the how like testosterone suppressants is going to basically reduce your upper body strength and so on. This ran. So this was on like people in the Air Force, right? We reviewed fitness test results and medical records of 29 trans men and 46 trans women who started gender-affirming hormones while in the United States Air Force. We compared pre- and post-hormone fitness test results of the trans women and trans men with the average performance of all women and men under the age of 30 in the Air Force between 2004 and 2014. We also measured the rate of hormone-associated changes in body composition and athletic performance. The 15 to 31% athletic advantage that trans women displayed over their female counterparts prior to starting gender-affirming hormones declined with feminizing therapy. However, trans women still had a 9% faster mean run speed after the 1-year period of testosterone suppression that is recommended by World Athletics for inclusion in women's events. So the thing is, like, muscle atrophy is actually not completed until year 2. So they just ran it for like 1 year, but it's just not enough. Push-ups performed in 1 minute. Trans men actually like exceed the male counterparts. Sit-ups performed in 1 minute. Trans women perform like on average worse than average female after 2+ years. This is this one. Effects of gender-affirming hormones on athletic performance in trans women and trans men. Implication for sporting organizations and legislations. But the main point of these things is just like, so, okay, so you still have like an advantage when it comes to like faster run speed. There's nothing when it comes to like push-ups or like sit-ups, like upper body strength and so on. Okay, so you still have like some advantage after like 1 year. Okay, what if we just like set the limit for like HRT to 2 years in like certain sports where you have like an advantage? But then the main problem of like conversations like this is like, why do trans people need to be in like a position where they have to have like a disadvantage, like a major disadvantage, in order to compete in women's events? Like, why can a trans woman not excel and be good at like sports if they want to compete in like women's sports, right? That is like the main idea, because like that creates like a lot of like gatekeeping. It's like, oh, this one trans woman shouldn't be allowed to compete in like women's esports because like she was born a male and she's more aggressive and does better. Something that like, you know, Leaflit was like trying to like argue with, like, oh, men are usually more aggressive and being aggressive is better when you play Counter-Strike or some shit. So when you have like this line of thinking, and then it's like, well, can like a trans woman compete if she doesn't finish like first, but instead like 28th? What if a trans woman finishes last? Can a trans woman compete as long as they finish last, or is that not, should that not be allowed? So there's like a lot of like, there are a lot of like struggles when it comes to these things. And then, okay, you look at like certain sports where like being tall is like an advantage. If you're a tall woman and you play volleyball, you know, you're at an advantage. If you look at like professional volleyball and they're like 190 centimeters, like 6'4" or whatnot, like you're going to be performing, you know, slightly better. You have like an advantage, like some percentage of an advantage to like the average height of a woman. Does that mean they should be banned? And then it's like, oh no, it's because it's crossing gender lines. That is why it should be okay. Michael Phelps, who's built like a dolphin, should still be competing in men's sports, because like even though he's built like a dolphin and has like huge advantages, that is still not warranting, you know, to be banned. The whole Leah Thomas thing was so misinformed. She won 1 race. Her times are not above cis women's times. If every trans woman had a buff, why isn't every trans woman winning? Exactly. And like a huge thing is also like they are thinking about like the jump. Oh, you finished 65th in men's and then 5th in women's, and you know, you jumped ranks and you did like so much better. But like you're being put at a disadvantage if you have trans women go on HRT and compete in men's sports. So how is that fair? Trans women are down here after like 2+ years after, you know, suppressing testosterone, and the male control is like here when it comes to like sit-ups. Why should trans women compete against men when they have like a huge disadvantage in this area? And then there's still like discrimination, like social stigma and whatnot, right? The real answer is they don't want us doing anything. Yeah. If you're a trans person, you can never be good at anything. What is frustrating for me is then you look at like sports and whatnot, and it's like such a heated thing that like transphobes like hyper fixate on. And then you still see like situations where like a trans woman goes into like a women's strong, like a strong woman contest and like takes the first place. It looks like a little bit like you're shooting yourself in the community in the foot by doing that, especially if they're like mixed events as well. Like right now, we do not live in a world like, yeah, trans women should be able to compete in women's sports. Sure, the spotlight is on trans women in women's sports. And it's like such an easy debate because like people are so like misinformed on it. But we also need like a lot more research into this. As in, you can't claim that trans people have massive advantages. Little to no. That is kind of like the problem that I had with like there are 46 trans women in here. And Leaflit is like overly generalizing, being like, oh, so like all trans women have a 9% buff when it comes to run speed over all women, which is obviously not how it works. And then I said, no, like you look at like what you can learn, what you can like take away from it in these aspects. Yeah, it's flawed. It is not perfect. We need more research, but like it is either like, oh, okay, so you are overly generalizing and you're accepting this as a fact, or we gotta like dismiss the study. And I'm like, you know, I think at this point I was like, yeah, let's just like move on to like a different topic. And then we talk about this drop thing about like the justifying the abuse and so on. Like you can watch the video that I did about like Christian VTuber. I didn't get to like talk about this, but I did watch Leaflit's video on me, and it was basically like her calling her reading like this one tweet without the context because, you know, she's unable. It's probably a mix of like stupidity, arrogance, and like, you know, being malicious, bad faith when it comes to viewing certain things in like a vacuum and not including societal context and context that comes from like the person and like the altercations and so on. Because she literally just portrayed me as like some raging, triggered snowflake who just like went off on Straw. Poor little small bean Straw. I did a research survey and it shows everyone loves cats and hates dogs. It doesn't matter. I only serve it for people. Exactly. That was like pretty much the conversation, all of like the problems. I don't know if there's like any minute detail that I like missed. Maybe someone here knows. You got the full convo on YouTube? Yes, I uploaded it. I said it live like 5 hours ago. The hypotheticals. Hypothetically speaking. Wait, if I go in here, if I go into this the thing.
So I think it's the most fair to society, right? Because like regardless of, so my concern is harmony between people, right? And if we have one side of people, and you know, I'm not saying this is. Let me finish. If you have one side of people, like trans people, demanding like recognition, demanding like that they're allowed in these spaces without, you know, kind of any sort of structure, any sort of standards. And then you know, likewise on the other side, if you had, you know, obviously if you had people saying like, yeah, fuck all trans people, like that'd be bad too, right? I think there has to be like for the sake of harmony, there has to be.
For the sake of harmony, trans people just need to accommodate for bigots. And too disruptive. When people can't tell apart harmony and homogeneity, yeah.
For the people that are untouched.
I don't understand why trans women need to be banned, but like cis women with an unfair advantage, they shouldn't be banned.
Well, because it's under. I mean, why have women's sports?
A lot of like, you know, hijacking the conversation, avoiding like the questions and so on, and there are a lot of like aspects, a lot of like moments like this.
You can argue there's a difference too in chess and esports, but I think that the difference is minimal compared to physical sports.
What difference is there between chess?
Well, it has to do with just kind of like aggressive mentality. I think I don't know. I actually don't know the answer to that. I'd have to do some research into that. I'm assuming it's the case. Maybe I'm wrong.
Is being aggressive an advantage in chess?
It might be. I don't know. I don't play chess, so I don't really know. It is in video games, though. 100%.
Being aggressive is an advantage in esports?
Yeah, hell yeah. It's huge. Especially shooting, like CSGO and stuff like that. It's huge. Being aggressive is massive. Because then you put the enemy on you put the opponent on the defensive. So it's a huge deal to be aggressive.
Do you think
I
women
play a
are?
lot of esports.
Do you think women are worse at playing terrorist in Counter-Strike than men?
Are playing terrorist? You know, I want to make a joke, but I shouldn't. I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna make it. No. But probably. I mean, it's probably like small enough though to like not really matter. It's probably like again, it's a matter of degree, right? Like where I said 9% is like pretty huge, whereas like I think the difference is in it's probably not that high, and like maybe that I could be proven wrong, and then in which case I would say, okay, fair enough, the men have an advantage, so we should have women's esports.
The reason why we have women's esports and women's tournaments is actually because of like the toxicity of like men creating like a hostile environment for women. Just so you know, that's kind of like why a lot of like sports, like even like chess and so on, has like gendered tournaments and like spaces in order to like allow women in order to like flourish in these spaces as well. You see like how much like pressure women in esports have, like especially if they're like competing in like a guy's team and whatnot, right? There's a lot of like discrimination, even if you're like solo queuing on Valorant in like every elo. Basically, men just like creating a hostile environment because they can't bear the idea of like playing with a woman and so on. And basically like directly pushing women out of these spaces. This has nothing to do with like, oh, men are biologically more aggressive, this means they are better, and because trans women are actually men, they have an unfair advantage at being aggressive, so they are better in esports. That's so stupid. That's such a dumb thing. I got really confused with that one. It's just reinforcing the patriarchy and toxic masculinity, which hurts men too. Exactly. The reason why men are aggressive is because they are not taught how to be emotionally intelligent enough in order to like spot their emotions. And it's being brushed off as like, oh, biologically, men are just more aggressive. Women are more subservient and like men are more like dominant. Women are bad at like playing video games because they are like so submissive that they're going to like submit to the enemy team if they have like a man on it. Women are liability in the team because like also like the guys are going to like start flirting with her and like sexualizing her, and it's just going to be like too confusing. Like, do you know men are better than women at everything? Feminist, by the way.
I'm very consistent with like my I try to be at least. Sometimes I'm wrong.
I mean, okay, so
like you convinced me earlier that I should just use your pronouns. Fair enough. I don't really care.
Like, what? What does that mean? This is a very normal opinion. Okay, listen, I have a very normal opinion on this. Actually, white neighborhood should be okay. This is a very normal opinion. I'm using your pronouns, so I'm very consistent. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Leaflit still referred to me with like they, them pronouns. Or just by name. Yeah. But yet constantly misgendered you constantly though. I mean, obviously. There are a lot of people in Leaflit's community who just hate me. Not just because I'm trans, also because of like the Keisha situation and whatnot. Somebody needs to make like a counter whenever she says like hypothetical, but I also don't want to get people to like watch the full thing because like you're gonna struggle.
Well, I guess for me, it's I don't respect people right away, and maybe that's like a difference that we have.
The thing is like, I feel like the difference is that like you just perceive trans people differently than like a cis person. If you have like, if you meet like a stranger on the street and they are just like a cis woman and they present traditionally like feminine and so on, you're just going to like assume she, her. And for trans people, they have to like earn this right, this privilege to be called by their pronouns.
So actually, specifically in this case, if it was just she, her pronouns, I actually wouldn't care. Like I'd use it, honestly.
But like when it comes to something
with many people before.
Okay.
Well, it's because I know very little about you, right? It's like I don't really know what you're about. I don't want to make a mistake.
Like I don't. That's just like the point, which is like yeah, so you don't view me as a woman. Running 9% faster pairs well with our ability to double jump. Yeah, like if Leaflit would have brought up the fact that we're like we got double jump, then I would have conceded. So yeah, okay. The question is, was this worth it? Was this conversation worth it? For me personally, like I know where Leaflit stands now. I know the issues. It allowed me to talk about things that, you know, I think that are like important to me. How are we feeling, chat? Was this worth it? No. No? I'm glad this was broadcast to the wider VTuber scene. These kinds of people can't change their mind in general. The thing is, like, I always think about like the potential of like someone in the community who heard it. Leaflit does have a big community. There were a lot of eyes on this. It's incredibly hard to tell. The hope is that there are some people in a community that would be swayed. They wouldn't be the ones that leave comments. Yeah. I tried to leave multiple times, but I couldn't cause masochism. I get it. I get it. And the only good shit we got out of it was the memes, the hypothetically, the aggressively, the 9%, and average. It was an overall wash. Nobody from Leaf's chat changed. Yeah, but like nobody in the chat is like, it's not about like the people who are actively typing in chat who hate me anyways. Like obviously I can't change their mind. But like you have to think like the VOD is live on her channel and has like over 10,000 views already. Yeah? Do you think nobody could be reached through that? Like nobody actually like views her differently? Like obviously like I also got like backlash for like even doing that. Obviously, right? I've just heard all of her arguments before. I was wore out from the beginning. I get it. I get it. I didn't know her before. It's like over 130,000 subscribers on YouTube. Got big as like a comfy, cozy gamer streamer who was considered apolitical, but has been like diving further into like the conservative pipeline. And you know, she said she always had those views, so she was just like hiding them. Similarly to like Strop. You're more likely to convince someone watching than the person you're talking to. Exactly. I found it very sad that she don't seem to saw the cruelty and the hypothetical talking points. Yeah. Talking is one step closer to being viewed as human sometimes. Yeah, also like I think it might like change people's perspective because like I am calm, I'm trying to be as reasonable as possible. I'm trying to like make decent points. Obviously like transphobes will never like view that. But maybe it breaks like the point of like me being perceived as like a raging trans person who is like upset when you like misgender them. I hope that there's people out there who had a change of perspective after watching the debate. Yeah, like the people who follow her are already too far to gone to change. I don't want to like assume that because I was in that pipeline. I used to watch Asmongold religiously. You know, there were like some things that I like disagreed with, but there are some things that like made sense to me. I own John Peterson's books. Look at what happened now. Do you still agree with some of their takes? With like Asmongold's takes? When he says Twitch adding the 1,000 gifted sub thing sucks ass. That is something that I can agree with. Yunyara, why? I fell for that pipeline. Internalized transphobia, hating myself, and then thinking like, oh, these people, these like fragile losers who are making a scene about pronouns, they are the ones who are making people like me look bad, who know their place and who are like stealth. Desmond would always leave some of his views vague back in the past. Yeah, and like he has some agreeable talks, like when sometimes he says things that like sound reasonable to you when it comes to like, oh, he's like pro-abortion. Or then he has like takes sometimes where he's like, oh, actually, if I would have a trans child, I would love them unconditionally. But you still don't believe that like a kid can be trans, so they're actually coming out as trans when they're 18 or whatnot. So always a weird mix of reasonable, then you get to the wacky conspiracy theory. Yeah, and now he's like boosting like Nick Fuentes and whatnot. It's kind of like on the same level as like XQC. Every now and then I see like an XQC take on my timeline where he's like, he just makes sense. I did like this tweet a while ago being like, I don't know why, but I always get extremely happy when I see the rare XQC take I agree with on my timeline. This was about like vaccines and whatnot. RFK Jr., if you look at the studies on the Pfizer vaccine, the people who got the vaccines had a 23% higher death rate from all causes. Wrong. He makes numbers sound scary, but they really aren't. Total study participants was 44,000 total. 44,000 total number of deaths after the full trial was 38. 21 out of 17 vaccinated being the 21. Those 4 could have gone either way. They're an artifact. That's not enough for scientific conclusion. How the fuck did XQC of all people suddenly become the supreme streamer voice of reason?